connection, engagement, rigor, success. Hello, and welcome to my podcast, coaching you through all things education. And you can find me right here on Tuesdays at noon. I'm your host, Ann Labangana Clay of A&C Unlimited, and we take the stress out of education. I am a passionate educator who has spent the past 26 years teaching, presenting, coaching, and consulting for students of all ages, parents, other educators, and the public. Each week, we will unpack relevant topics in education together. And when I'm not podcasting, stop by our website, acunlimited.org, for our new blog post in Coaching You EDU, or a free consultation on any teacher, admin, or parent question of your choosing. We also provide 3 levels of interview coaching and custom design workshops made just for you. If something resonates with you during this episode, please leave a comment on LinkedIn, on our company Facebook page, or on Twitter. Check out the story notes for our social media details. And if you have an episode suggestion, please send it to coachingallthingsedu@gmail.com. Now let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to episode 17 of Coaching You Through All Things Education podcast. Today we have one of my faves, Miss Tairen McCollister. She is a passionate educator who has left no stone unturned regarding how we as adults need to start looking within and work on ourselves so that we can be our best for our students. Thank you so much for joining us today, Tairen.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I'm so grateful to share this space with you.
Oh, I feel the same way. Thank you. We're going to get started with question number 1. So, can you tell our listening audience a little bit about yourself and why you are so passionate about mental health and wellness?
So I am in my 13th year of teaching high school, and I have taught elementary school, preschool, college level, the whole gamut. And I think that is one of the reasons why the topic is so important to me, not just personally, but professionally. Over the years, I have seen populations change, and I have seen the needs of our students change. And one of the things in my personal life that has worked for me is the self-reflection, the mindfulness, that type of a, perspective. And that really has sort of been the driving force in finding a way to combine what I do in real life, with what I do professionally, and just exploring any opportunity that I can to learn more about meeting the needs of, my students, the whole child, all of it. So that's really what drives me. That's what motivates me. My children motivate me as well. They're 5 and 6, and they're entering an education system that is not always prepared to meet the needs of our students. And I think that for me, another aspect of it is if I can do the work professionally, by the time my kids are coming along to these classrooms with some of these teachers, they'll be in good hands. So that's my motivation.
Yes. You know what? I resonate with what you're saying. My daughter is a different age than yours. She's grown now. But as she was growing and developing, to me, it was so important to develop her as the whole child. And so I learned, right, to, through professional developments and on my own, what ways would benefit her, but also which ways it would benefit my student. It was a win-win. And I definitely hear what you're saying. Your passion exudes through social media and everything. You really are a whole child advocate, and that's really important. Thank you for being that for us.
Thank you for supporting me and seeing that. And I think that we're building a community where that's the norm. That's going to be the norm, and that's what it's all about.
Amen. All right. Our second question is a heavier one. All right. The year 2020, filled with COVID-19, racial unrest, lack of human interactions in so many different ways, has left us with a hole, really, in ourselves and our mental health and wellness. And whether it looks like fear and anxiety, agitation and irritability, or for some it's, feeling unmotivated and unproductive, what do you think are the roots of how we might be feeling, and how can we deal with that?
Oh my gosh, that question. It's a 2020 question. Like, it really is. Every area of our lives has been changed. And I think that there are three things that really come to mind when I think of 2020, personally, professionally, socially, across the board. It's the lack of feeling like we have some sort of control.
Yeah.
Over our lives, over anything. I think it's also the fear of the unknown. Just we don't know what's going to happen, and a lot of it is completely out of our hands. So every emotion that we've felt is centered around the idea of fear of something. And I think that the only way that we can really, come out on the other side feeling more positive about ourselves and those around us is accepting that this is our current situation, and staying in the moment. And I think that is the key, because there is a lot outside that we can't control. And not that we had control before, but I think that we like to think that we do. And I think that when that was taken away from us, it threw us all for a loop. And I think that the ones that I've encountered who, I don't want to say they've been successful, because I think that we're all still standing, so we've been successful. But the ones who I think are finding their way with more ease and grace are the ones that are truly just sort of staying present, realizing that this too shall pass. I know that it's easier said than done, but one of the things about mindfulness is the moment. And I think that has been critical for, what we need to do, and to accept that we don't have control, and we have every right to be frightened, but we have to accept things as they are, and not rail against them. I think that creates more of an issue, and that's where you see the anxiety and the imbalance.
You shared a lot of things that make a lot of sense to a lot of people. I think that one thing that stuck out that I haven't heard yet is mindfulness. And I know all about it, but I haven't tapped into it the way that, I usually have pre-pandemic, And like you said, I think the fear, and I think of it as a distraction, for myself. I'm not in my routines like I should be, right? Mindfulness is a wonderful way to escape, right, from what's going on. And even though it might be a temporary feeling or a temporary action that you've taken, through mindfulness, it actually carries through, and you can use that throughout your day, throughout your week, etc. That's something that for myself, I definitely took notes about that. I want to make sure that I'm being intentional about putting mindfulness back into my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
it's critical. I think that that's something that we all had to stop on March 13th.
There you go.
Everything stopped. And I think that for me, one of the saving graces, if I can even call it that, is the fact that it was a part of my life before.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But it was a test. It was a test. And, you say that you practice mindfulness, right? Tairen, you've been doing this for years, and you do yoga and meditation and all this, but now you really have to lean into it and buy into it and actually practice it. So it came, that was requiring the acceptance that there are things that I can't control. I cannot, stay in that place of anxiousness.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that with us. All right. Question number 3. What have you been doing in addition to your mindfulness, or maybe unpacking more of that for us, to work on your own mental health?
So as I said, mindfulness is something that, has been important, not just with me, but also with my children. We do it. They're 5 and 6, and they do yoga, and they, try to balance their chakras and
wonderful.
And all of that. And I think that is something that, I've been required to do to kind of step up the mental health and wellness. So meditation, reading is something else that I think has been really beneficial. Sometimes it's reading for work. Sometimes it's reading for enjoyment. But just incorporating some time to read and be exposed to, different topics and, different genres is a good way to be okay, to be well with what's going on.
Absolutely.
So that's been important. I've also been really focused on the health aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, one of the things that we're finding is that, those that are predisposed to things, or, have previous conditions and all those things, and and vitamin D levels, and they're telling us all these things. So just sort of being mindful of, vitamins and things that we were doing before, but, just sort of maybe having to step it up and be more consistent and that type of thing. So that's been a focus of some of my reading, just exploring, the different, things that we can do health-wise. But I think that's really been key. One of the other things that I would have to say is just being patient and finding grace in every moment. Absolutely. And I think that, especially as teachers, we're hard on ourselves. We really want to meet the needs of our students, and when things don't go as planned, we can, really have an issue with that. And one of the things that, even with my students as well as my children, is I'm just trying to just practice patience and grace in everything, because what is the alternative?
Right, exactly.
It'll eat you up. So just being kind, that's been something. One of the books that I'm reading, it's called Broken Open by Elizabeth Lesser. Okay. And it's like my 3rd time reading it, and I feel like, she's got different chapters on different topics and how situations and circumstances can break you open. And sometimes the purpose of being broken open is to rebuild and to grow, and we have to embrace that. Right. So I sat down a couple months ago and I was like, I'm going to reread this book. And that's been an example of something that, has been beneficial. Reading things that we've read before that we might find comfort in. I think that that's, another thing that has worked. for me on a lot of levels.
Yes. Wow. And I love to read. So I'm looking forward to reading that. It makes me think of the broken open, makes me think of the symbol of the pot, the potter and the potter's clay. The pot was whole and now there's a crack, right? There's a fable regarding that. There's biblical references to, being the pot and now it's broken and being put together again. So, when you mentioned that, I was like, wow, and a lot of people are broken, are feeling broken right now. And like you gave some great examples of ways that you take care of your mental health, the reading, self-reflecting, etc. And we have to do for ourselves, right? Because and giving grace was a big one, right? We as educators, like you said, we're hard on ourselves. We're sometimes hard on ourselves as parents, but the bottom line is, we do it all in love and care. And, there's a reason for it, and we know we can fix it too. We know how, we seek ways to fix it. So that's awesome.
And the other thing that, as you're talking about the cracks, I know that, there's a song and I can't remember who sings it, but the crack is where the light gets in. Right? Yeah. And I think that has also been something for me. 2020 has been tough, absolutely, but there have been so many blessings. And you just have to see them. I mean, the time that we have spent in our garden. Right. I mean, like these things that we had no other choice but to spend time in the garden. So nature and just, seeing whatever it is that was positive through this experience. And I know that that's, again, easier said than done. And there are some that, it would be more of a challenge to find the blessing or the positive.
Sure.
But not doing or making the effort, I think, is detrimental. And we have to shift our minds. We can easily see the negative, but what are the positives? 2020 has been eye-opening for everybody. Even the racial unrest, I mean, that has brought forth work that we have been trying to implement for years.
Yes.
And now we've got an audience and we've got people who are willing to listen and do the work. That's some light coming through the crack.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah.
I like that imagery, the light coming through the crack, right?
Yeah.
Change is coming.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Our next question. As an educator, you have an awesome responsibility of being charged with the mental health and wellness of your school population, first virtually and now in a hybrid model. What have been some challenges, and please share your successes?
Oh, this is one of those moments where, we look at the negative, right? This is one of those moments where in my mind, I can think of 10 negatives, that have happened with my students, where I felt like I wasn't meeting their needs and I wasn't giving them what they needed. And I think that, some of it has been, the lack of connection. That's been tough for me because I know my students. I love to get to know them. They're my lovelies and I call them that, having all of those things sort of taken away. That's hard. Their focus has been a challenge because I've had students who, I teach high school, I teach a vocational school. So I've got students who, when this first started happening, they were medical workers. They were still working. They were being exposed to COVID and they were missing assignments. And then they would message me and say, Ms. McCollister, it's going to be late because, a patient tested positive. Okay. You don't worry about it. Don't worry about this. So that's been something that I, from the beginning, I just said their focus is not on English.
Right.
Focus is elsewhere. Yeah. And that has been something that, I would say has been a challenge. But the success of it has been the flexibility and the fact that I am straight upfront with them where you deal with what you need to deal with. This assignment can wait, you know? And that has been something that has been successful. Just, meeting them where they are, just being upfront with them where, I've got students now, I've got some that are hybrid and some that are remote, which means that, on that day that I have class, I've got some that are in school and I've got some that are still at home, and just letting them know that regardless of the format, I am here. You can reach me. I'm available. Those are the successes. And when they reach out and they say, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what to do. Okay, let's shut it down. Let's focus on why you're overwhelmed.
Sure. Yeah.
So those have been some challenges, but those have been successes where if we're having a class meeting and we're on Zoom and I can just sort of virtually read the room that, their head's not here. Okay, let's shut it down. We're not going to talk about literature right now. What's going on? Do you guys want to do some deep breathing? Let's breathe. Let's breathe.
Love it.
And that requires being flexible. But that's been a success where I'm not worrying about the curriculum. I'm not saying I'm not worried about it, but I'm not worried about it. I want them to be okay. I want them to, when this is over, remember, Ms. McCollister was very patient with me. I got through the course. I learned what I needed to learn.
That's right.
But I didn't lose myself. And I think that has been a success. And that's the feedback that I get from students and from parents. I got an email the other day from a mother who, thank you so much. My child is failing your class. Yes, he is. He is. He absolutely is. But you are working with him and you are, extending, your time and you're meeting with him, and I appreciate it. That's the least I can do. That's the least I can do in the middle of a pandemic. Their mental well-being is just as important as mine, if not more important.
Absolutely.
So the challenges have been a lot, but the positives have been extending the grace and having them realize that it's not just about the academics. It's truly about the whole child.
Absolutely.
It truly is.
Words right out of my mouth.
and in terms of connection, I'm thinking of the things that have been successful. One of the things, not all kids want to be on camera, and they will message me. I'm babysitting my sister right now. I don't want to be on camera. Sure. She's kind of in a mood. I'm like, I've got a 5 and a 6-year-old. I completely understand.
Yes.
Keep the camera off. It's fine. But I will assign a Flipgrid, a response, where they're able to do what they need to do without that pressure, so kind of being more creative has been a success. I've been forced to kind of think outside the box when I was thinking outside the box before. But now I really do. It really, it is, but that's something that, I wouldn't have thought I would ever have to do, but we're doing what we need to.
Amen. Amen. And you know what? I love that you're sharing with us that the students have a commitment level, like they want to do. It's not, and I think sometimes, unfortunately, it doesn't look that way to the general public. But kids want to do. Students, your high schoolers, they want to do, but there are other things going on, right, around them, babysitting. Being in the midst of, the medical world with COVID going on, and so I think you make an excellent point. One of my huge passions, they're going to get it. They're going to get the content. We're not going to keep them from having it, that they're going to get it, but they're going to get it when they can get it.
Right.
Because, it has no value. Am I not right? It has zero value if your head is not in it and you just keep teaching anyway.
Right. They can't learn. They cannot learn if their brain is in fight or flight. They cannot learn if they've got the anxiety. They cannot focus if none of this is what they have. And I think that's one of the things that, we as teachers have to be mindful of. We have to, it's not about us. And I think that one of the dangers that, we face with the pressures of being evaluated and administrators, popping in and all of this stuff. And, that's a whole other episode.
We will have you back to that.
But I do think that we have to just sort of stop ourselves and remind ourselves that it's not about English sometimes. It's not about math. It's about what our students need. And that's something that, before the pandemic was, on my mind. It was something that I was mindful of. But again, just like with my mindfulness personally, it was a test where, so you've been saying you've got this, you've been practicing it. Now you really need to do it. You need to live by it.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
So true. And I know you're doing it beautifully. So I worry not about your students under your care. That's awesome.
I'm trying.
You are doing. How about that? That's what people tell me sometimes. I say, oh, I'm trying. They said, no, you are doing. You are doing it. Yeah. And you just need to remember that, right? Let your light shine, darling.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with more from Tairen McCollister. Dear teacher, do you need strategies and resources for individualized instruction, innovative lessons, small group instruction, or student engagement? We can help you with this and more. We have 26 years of teaching and consulting experience in pre-K through 12th grades, as well as experience in adult professional development. We design and present custom-made, self-paced online webinars and in-person workshops for teachers and parents as well. We also provide lesson plan support, interview coaching, proven scholarship tips, and tutor referrals. And that's why ANC Unlimited is just that, unlimited. We offer quality work in everything we do, or we don't do it. So contact us today to help you take the stress out of education by visiting our website at acunlimited.org, or you can reach us via email at andc.unlimited4you@gmail.com. We look forward to connecting with you soon. We're back with more from Tairen McCollister. Next question. For our educators, our parents, and our students who are listening today, what are 3 tips to improve our own mental health and wellness?
That's a great question. And that's something that I think, as we were saying, this year has been like no other. And it has been a year of firsts and reflection and all of those things. But if I had to choose 3 things that I think we all, parents, teachers, students, just society-wise need to do is connect. Yes. We have to maintain connection. I know that we are all zoomed out. But I also know that it is a great way for us to connect, right? Social media is another way that we have been connecting, right?
Right.
So connection, feeling that isolation, and fighting it with some type of a connection is important. I also think that reflecting on the positives, because again, there is so much that is beyond our control, but in our little, world and our little, self, reflect on the positives. And I think that, is really key to the big picture. We are not meant to have the perfect life. We are not meant to not struggle. And that is something that I think that is easy to fall prey to. But if we reflect, I think that we'll see that there have been moments, moments. Hold on to the moments and reflect on those. And then I would say rest. I would think being still is important.
Okay.
I think that, just sort of, being mindful of how drained we are sometimes and allowing ourselves to give into rest. And rest could look like a nap for some. It could look like gardening for others. It could look like making a cup of tea and just, sitting on the couch and staring off into space. But rest and being still is important because we are all experiencing a certain degree of fight or flight. And I think that is something, if we're talking health, is important because that builds up. That becomes inflammation. That becomes, a medical, area of concern. So resting and being still are the three things that I tell my students. In the spring, we did a unit on transcendentalism, and we started it on March the 12th. We started on March the 12th, and then we were gone, right? And over the course of the next few weeks, a part of their assignment was to be outside, to do your work outside, to make a TikTok outside and send me the link, to make a flip grid and respond to this response, but you need to be under a tree or somewhere green, that type of thing was something that at the end of the year, when I did my, reflect on the year and give me some feedback, some of the students who, said from day one, when I mentioned, the earth in flowers and all of that jazz, they were like, what were you talking about? But it was a positive in the middle of, all of the chaos. And I think that, sometimes you have to be forced. And this was one of those moments where I was forcing them to rest and calling it an assignment.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Woo. I've got several notes. I know our listeners are writing it down as well, because those are three things that we need to infuse into our daily lives. And with intentionality, we really plan for that. So thank you so much for sharing that. Oh my goodness, this is my favorite question, and it is trending on the show right now. If you could have a billboard with anything on it, what legacy message would you print on it and why?
Legacy has been something I've been really thinking about lately. I don't know why. It's been something that I've been guided to sort of focus on. Maybe it's because, I have children and, they are my legacy, but if I think about, the students that I've taught and, the teachers or parents that I've, done professional development with or led, I think that for me, legacy goes back to, I'm going to do a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, who is my favorite transcendentalist. And I think that this is what I would want flashing in neon lights somewhere. To know even when life has breathed easier because you have lived, this is to have succeeded. And for me, to know that, my kids are doing okay in the middle of a pandemic. Yes, I have to scoop them up off of the floor sometimes in the middle of a tantrum, but that's okay. These are parts of life, but to know that they're doing okay, I feel like that's the most important thing. To know that my students, have felt, a positive impact, and maybe they've just breathed just a little bit easier, is good for me, because I think that one of the reasons why I came into education was not just to teach, but to connect. And and I think that that's the most important thing, to know that I've impacted, children, and they've breathed just a little bit easier, especially 2020 is enough for me. That's a legacy that I can be proud of.
Oh. Woo, okay. My little tear coming. Oh, that's awesome. Well, we have been so delighted having you today with us on our podcast and look forward to connecting, as you say, right? Again, for a future episode, if you so desire. And just have a wonderful, wonderful day full of mindfulness, self-reflection, and giving yourself grace, my dear. Giving yourself grace.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for sharing this space with me. I appreciate it.
Oh, indeed. It's my pleasure. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that concludes another episode of Coaching You Through All Things Education podcast. As Confucius states, those who develop the ability to continuously acquire new and better forms of knowledge that they can apply to their work and to their lives will be the movers and shakers in our society for the indefinite future. Again, you can find me on LinkedIn or on our company Facebook page, A&C Unlimited. And please take a moment to visit our website at acunlimited.org for that free consultation. Until next time, stay stress-free and be well. Hello, this is Ann Labangana Clay, your podcast host for Coaching You Through All Things Education, as well as the founder of ANC Unlimited. I absolutely love using Anchor as my home. Let me tell you why. First of all, the creation tools allow me to record and edit my podcast right from my phone or my computer. Second of all, Anchor will distribute my podcast for me so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course now iHeartRadio. The third reason why Anchor is my home is because there is no cost to me when I create. So I can create as many episodes and bonus episodes as I choose for my listeners. So my suggestion is that you sign up today at Anchor FM and start your own podcast. I'll see you Tuesday.